Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be talking to you today about the second half of November and the new moon that we have coming up in Sagittarius on the 23rd. Important to say that I'm actually filming this on the 7th of November, the day before the total lunar eclipse. So whatever is going to unfold around that day, I'm not going to be taking account of that in this video, but certainly we are absolutely in the crucible of change right now. I think there's no doubt about that. So in this second half of November, we still are well within the intensity of the eclipses. The total lunar eclipse particularly intense because it was total, and we're going to feel the ramifications, the consequences of those eclipses for another 6 months. But the personal planets are already starting to move into more mutable signs. Mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And they are quite restless signs. They're very flexible and adaptable to change. They're quite chameleon-like, if you like, in the energy. But it can create, so it means the energy in a way is less fixed, less kind of held down. It's more free to form in different ways, I want to say. More mutable, more malleable. And that's a theme I'm going to be coming back to. And added to that as well, it can create a slightly out of control feeling sometimes with an awful lot happening when you have an emphasis in mutable signs, because we have 7 planets there at this new moon. Mars, I also want to bring into the picture, which is in a mutable sign of Gemini, but it's also, remember, what is known as out of bounds currently, because planets normally orbit within 23 degrees north or south of the ecliptic. That's the normal band of orbit for them. But occasionally they go what is called out of bounds, beyond that normal 23 degrees. Mars is going to be not only retrograde, which means it's closer to the Earth until the 12th of January, but it's going to stay out of bounds until the 4th of May. So it's going to create this slightly out of control situation. However, it's freeing up the energy to create something else. And that's very important. It's very interesting, I think, that I'm going to be coming on to talk about the new moon in detail in a moment, but the next 5 new moons, including this one, are all at 1 degree of their sign. 1 degree of their sign. So that says to me that many other things say this to me, but it's another reinforcement that we are stepping into another episode, a new episode. Because in this crucible of change, we've got Saturn now moving direct until it changes sign, moves into Pisces in March. Pluto now moving direct. Again, neither of them are looking back until it starts to move into Aquarius in March. There's going to be quite a significant shift of energy around March, but they're not looking back, they're moving forwards. But nevertheless, as I've spoken about many, many times, Pluto now moving through those last 3 degrees of Capricorn, and admittedly it won't totally leave Capricorn until December 2024, but it's in this process of finally unearthing, revealing anything which lacks integrity, accountability, which is not for our highest good, particularly in top-down structures, governments, corporations, institutions, etc. So this is a necessary part of the breakdown to break through to the new. And there's a lot of new coming, which is very exciting. Now, on the 20th of November, we have Jupiter in a beautiful trine to the Sun. And this Jupiter is going to be very strong in this second half of November. The planet's archetype symbolism is about hope, optimism, wisdom, higher consciousness, future horizons, getting us to think bigger, be bigger. So let me now talk about this new moon, which is happening on the 23rd. So, as I always do, I've set this chart for England, London, because that's where I live. So ignore the clock face, ignore the houses if that isn't your time zone. But certainly this happens on the 23rd of the month. It's happening at 2:57 p.m. Pacific and 10:57 p.m. UK time. So the sun and moon are always together at a new moon. So here we can see them here at 1 degree. As I said, it's the first new moon in a series of 5 where the new moon is at 1 degree. So it's at 1 degree 37 of Sagittarius. And always at a new moon, it's the perfect time in the month to set a new intention for what you want to create. So see where 1 degree of Sagittarius falls in your own chart. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website, pamgregory.com, and then go to the link below this video, and you can buy a 2-part video series, which you can watch to infinity, about how to find these various points I mentioned with each update in your own chart and what it means for you. It's the beginning of a very exciting astrological journey, and it really starts you from zero. So, sun and moon together in Sagittarius at this new moon. Now, the ruler of Sagittarius is again Jupiter, and Jupiter is still in this trine to the sun and also at this point the moon. It's actually an out of sign trine, because if Jupiter was just 1.5 degrees sort of further on, it would be in the beginning of Aries. So then it would be a normal trine, if you like, fire sign to fire sign. But it's just slightly back from that. So it's still a trine aspect to the sun and moon, but it is called out of sign. So again, it has this feeling of expansion, expanding to our future horizons. And not only that, but what makes Jupiter even stronger, it's not only the ruler, not only in trine to the sun and moon, it is stationary on this day. And so that's what this little S stands for here, stationary. So whenever a planet is changing direction, it's like a big ship that comes to a stationary point and then starts to move off in a different direction. And always the symbolism of that planet is magnified for a few days either side of that time. So again, we have this sense of optimism, hope, wisdom, bigger future visions, that feels very exciting. Sagittarius is about reaching out to the cosmos for greater understanding. It is visionary. It's a visionary sign. And Jupiter also is visionary for the future, creating a whole new future. It's the planet and the sign linked to freedom, linked to truth. Those qualities, freedom and truth, are also linked to the planet Uranus, I would say, as well. But it is also the sign, I want to say, linked to the law. And the 2 signs most linked to the law are Libra, scales of justice, and Sagittarius, truth. I think at this time we are going to be seeing some very, very important legal developments around the truth at this time. And we will see what emerges. So we have 7 planets here in mutable signs. We have Moon, Sun, Venus, Mercury in Sagittarius, mutable sign. We have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, mutable sign. We have Mars in Gemini, mutable sign. So this mutability, as I say, is really emphasizing, I think, how malleable our reality is. It's incredibly malleable. It's invisible, actually, going forwards. The future does not exist. It's invisible. And I think we so often think it's fixed. You know, it's defined by what we are told by external sources, external reality. And it's not. It's not yet formed. We form it. We co-create. We are the co-producers. We are the co-participants in how our future shapes up. And always in my work, I've talked about your birth chart being your unique sheet of music. It's also your unique set of modeling clay that is not yet formed. The music is not yet played. The modeling clay is not yet formed. We get to choose collectively, in this instance, as well as individually, how we form our future. So let's step into that much more empowered position. We're no longer going to be living in a state of victimhood, of receiving our future as defined by others. We are going to be stepping into creating that. And I just want to shout that from the rooftops right now, because this is what this whole period of time is about, a greater sense of not only empowerment, but I think sovereignty, sense of center, sense of anchor, in a spiritual sense as much as anything else, that I think is so incredibly important. The other thing I'd like to say about Sagittarius is it's a fire sign. It's mutable fire. And also to add to that, even though Mars isn't in a fire sign, it's in an air sign, Gemini, because as I mentioned earlier, it is out of bounds beyond that normal 23 degrees north or south of the ecliptic, it has a more extreme, a more kind of out of control feel about it. And Mars, in its rulership of Aries, is linked to primal fire. So I actually think Mars is reinforcing this idea of a lot of fire at this time, at this new moon in Sagittarius. And fire can be negative, it can be, temper, anger, but it can be incredibly positive. Fire used positively is our passion, is our joyful life, is our conviction, is our enthusiasm. Love in its highest state is a fire. We will walk through the fire for love to get to our loved one, to get to that destination. So love is a fire. It's not weak or passive. It's incredibly powerful. So fire to me represents an empowered state of being. It's not victim. And I think so often in our lives, we define ourselves by looking back to our past. Who have we been? Have we been a sibling? Are we a parent? What are we in our careers? Are we a lawyer? A teacher? What are we? What are we in our other relationships, our friendships, etc.? We define ourselves by our past. And so often we define ourselves by our failures, perhaps. That relationship that didn't work out, that job that didn't work out. Well, at this new moon that is so visionary for a bigger, better future, how about we start to define ourselves by our future self? And the first step in that, I'd suggest, is defining your state of being that you want for your future. What state of being would you like to be in by the end of this year and going into 2023, which is a very different year energetically? What would you like your state of being to be? Joyful, loving, free, empowered? What is it going to be? Because that's the first step. And then who do you want to be? Do you want to be a writer, teacher, innovator? Do you want to rescue children or animals from tough circumstances? Start to define yourself by your future self rather than your past self, because when we're doing that, not only are we enlarging who we can step into from this point on, we are actually drawing on our higher self in defining that. We're pulling down what our higher self would like to manifest for us. And once we've created that vision, even in the loosest form of we want to be a much more loving being, a much more centered being, even that simple, then step into that new energetic hologram and live it from this moment. Because if you start to live it from this moment, even if in the past up to now, current circumstances haven't supported that, you will find quite quickly, the more you can live in that new energetic hologram, that you attract the people, the circumstances, the opportunities that feed into that new future vision. This is so exciting. It's very empowering. It's actually very simple to do. We've just got to be disciplined in our thinking and our emotion. But this is so visionary. This is so future oriented. And I think it's very exciting, actually. It's another signal to me of how much our reality is really on that precipice of change. It's palpable. We can all feel it. Absolutely. The other thing that supports this as well is Uranus here is in this aspect to the sun and moon. It's called a quindecile, this tiny Q here. It's very little used by astrologers. It's a 165-degree aspect, just 2 degrees either side of orb. You've got to use a very tight orb for this. It's an aspect of upset or upheaval or obsession very often. But here, Uranus, again, thinking of freedom, truth, the future, is really pulling in this new moon to start to produce that in our worlds. It's emphasizing those qualities of freedom, truth, and future at this full moon. And it's really exciting because the other actually thing I'd like to mention about Jupiter, as well as all of the things I've said about it being stationary, the ruler of this new moon, etc., is it's, I think I mentioned it's on the world axis too. So, but not only that, the world axis, by the way, as I've mentioned in the past, is 0 of the cardinal signs, 0 of Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, 2 degrees to either side of that. So 28 of the mutables to 2 degrees of the cardinals. That's the world axis, which means that whatever is unfolding currently is going to be quite big on the public stage. Jupiter is conjunct Neptune here. It's 6 degree of all. That's okay. That's perfectly acceptable. And you might remember that in April of this year, it was exactly conjunct. And at a lower level of expression, what I felt that may mean was big water, because Jupiter expands anything it touches, and Neptune in Pisces, water. Neptune, Lord of the Sea, is very much about water, so there could be flooding at that time, which indeed there was in some parts of South Africa and Australia. And Australia's had, horrendous flooding that seems to have been endless, in fact. So, prayers for Australia here to turn that around. But because Jupiter is moving back to that, let's hope that doesn't create more flooding. We seem to be in just endless rain in the UK as well at the moment. The other effect that had in April, which was less positive, Neptune represents the oil price. And if Jupiter expands or inflates, I felt that that could possibly inflate the oil price and ricochet onto fuel prices, and therefore inflate anything, the price of anything that was distributed. And indeed, that's how it did work. So let us hope that in this repeat conjunction, be it a wider conjunction, that it doesn't have that effect again. But at a very positive level of expression, this is about really stepping into more of your spiritual life, having more spiritual meaning in your day-to-day life, developing a greater sense of compassion in your life too. So this can be, very, very beautiful. It's also a sense of unboundedness, infinite possibility. Nothing is out of bounds. Nothing is impossible. And that's increasingly a feeling that I think we need to step into as well. So we can use that super positively in our meditations and our breath work, in our visions too. So this is very restless energy, all of this Sagittarian energy. It's about new horizons, it's about adventure. And there's also a sense, with Uranus being strong here as well, that we are stepping into a greater sense of being galactic citizens, because we truly are. We're made of stardust. I mean, we know that. And that to me is super exciting. There seem to be more suggestions of galactic connections right now that are going to be, I think, super positive for us going forwards. And so a lot of information is going to be coming at us. This is due to the long-running square here between Mars in Gemini. Gemini is facts and information. It's the mind, and Mars is going to energize all of that. So a lot of information, facts coming to us. Neptune can blur those facts and information, that what's, silt and fog, and what's true, what's not. Often very linked to the media, Neptune. This square becomes exact again on the 19th of November, but actually it's so close. This square is so close for quite some time. We're going to be in this kind of slight fog of a lot of information, but also a lot of mis and disinformation. So I'd suggest, as I have in the past, don't use your mind so much to analyze what's true, what's not. Drop into your heart. Your heart is a much better judge with this. So outer events do not have to define your future. I'm not letting them define my future. I'm going to define my future, because I'm going to create my own internal reality and impose that on all of my emotion moving forwards. And then I will magnetize people, events, experiences that are a frequency match to that emotion. So this is a wonderful opportunity, I think, that we are moving through. What's going to help us immensely is, I think many of us can feel this as well, we are moving through very big shifts in energy, very big upgrades in our energy. And that's going to be continuing to come in waves. I think it's going to be extremely strong around the winter solstice. That's going to raise us to a whole new level of consciousness. But we have to be in a position where we can welcome it in and hold the light. We are increasingly stepping into becoming homoluminous. We're increasingly stepping into becoming the light body. And then everything changes in our reality when we can step into that. And we're well aware that we're moving through the photon belt right now, but it's our level of consciousness determines the amount of light we can hold in our body. This is something, looking back to Cathar times, 800 years ago, that they really perfected. They understood and perfected what it meant to move into the light body. And then everything, your reality becomes very, very malleable indeed, because you're in such high consciousness. So our focus of attention, I feel, is incredibly important, because we are quantum entangling with whatever we are focused on or giving our attention to. So be very aware, if whatever you're reading, listening to, viewing, check in very quickly. Is this lowering my frequency? Is it raising my frequency? If it's lowering it, unplug. How do you know it's true anyway? With that Mars-Neptune square, it may not even be true. Unplug. Turn your attention to birdsong, staring into a flower, hugging a pet, hugging a child, anything that will flick your frequency to a higher level. As I said before, we spent our lives energizing what we don't want and then blaming it for giving us a hard time. So we must learn to master our emotions and our thinking to really focus on what we want to love into our world. Starve out the scary, loving the good. Simply focus on what you want to be part of your future reality, even in a feeling way, as I say. So from watching this video right now, can you start to dream in the aspect that your higher self wanted you to become in this lifetime? What kind of being, what kind of state of being, what kind of person does your higher self in that higher state of being want you to manifest in this lifetime? And then stepping into that from this moment, that energetic hologram, and living in it as fully as you can, you will start to magnetize the people, the circumstances, the opportunities that get you to that place very quickly. And remember, if many of us are doing this across the world and forming a frequency match, we are going to magnetize that better world, that new earth, much more rapidly than we can ever imagine. They're going to be huge jumps in consciousness as we move forwards in these coming weeks and months, particularly around the winter solstice. I think that's going to be a huge surge of energy to get us further up the beach than we've ever been before. So I hope that's helped you. Don't forget to set your new intention at this new moon. If you'd like more information about my books, my videos, my monthly newsletter, just check out my website, pamgregory.com. God bless, and bye for now.